Breeders' Crown weekend starts Friday, October 29th at the Meadowlands with a 6:20 post time. The Breeders' Crown races are races 6 through 9 for the 2-year-olds, and there's a $50,000 guaranteed pick 4. There's another one in race 10 as well. And I brought along Jay Bergman to talk about the pick 4 and all of the Breeders' Crown races on Friday.
Thanks for having me, Derick. It's going to be an interesting night for sure.
The races start. Race number 6 for the Breeders' Crown. 2-year-old Colton Gelding's on the trot for $600,000. And when you look at the board, you see a 9-5 favorite and branded by Lindy. You think this horse can't possibly lose, but there were some other horses in this race that maybe can give him a little tussle.
I think there's more than a couple of horses that can give him a little tussle. And I think, when you get down to the finals, more guys start moving, taking chances. I mean, I think, horses like Rebuff, Double Deceiver, even Gigandus. I'm not so sure about some of the outside horses, but I think testing, picking up Andy McCarthy. I think these horses are going to be, utilized a little bit more, and it's going to be more of a tactical race than it might have been in eliminations.
When I did my analysis, I made my top pick Double Deceiver, and I have a few reasons behind it. I love the fact that he was so relaxed in the pocket. People would say, well, he was gapping, but I think that was by design. They wanted this horse to be relaxed. This horse has been keyed up at times during his career, finished with plenty left. I think we're going to see a much different effort from Double Deceiver in the final.
I couldn't argue with that. I was in the paddock after the eliminations last week, and I watched a replay with Tim Tetrick, Rebuff, and I looked at him and I said, you didn't even look like you were that concerned on the final turn that the field was going to get away from you. And he said, no, I just, I let him roll when I wanted to, and I knew he had plenty of horse. So I'm kind of believing that Rebuff is coming into this race really, really at the top of his game, and certainly he's got his confidence. He's got a top driver, and I think he's got a great spot.
I can't argue with that either. I mean, I like Rebuff. He's on my ticket. I also have Branded by Lindy on my ticket, and I'm assuming you do as well. 8 for 10 on the year, and it's just looked tremendous.
Absolutely. I mean, the horse has done nothing wrong lately, and like I said, I just think it's there's a lot more reasons that this is going to be more of a mixed up race, more of a horses contesting, and I just think allowing one horse to control it is not likely to happen. But Branded by Lindy, absolutely on talent and racing form, he's on my ticket as well.
Just to bring up another horse, Duly Resolved. We watched him up in Canada a number of times, and it seemed like in the Mohawk Million, in the Wellwood, he would step up with his best efforts. Could we see an even better Duly Resolved this week than we saw in the eliminations?
I'm not so sure, and maybe I'm taking a negative view, but I really think that the Mohawk Million, as great a race as it is to have with 2-year-olds going for $1 million, I think there's a price to pay for getting to that race and racing in that race. And I just think Duly Resolved's last 2 races after the Mohawk Million don't look like the races before the Mohawk Million, and I'm not really happy with the way Venerate came out of the Mohawk Million either. So I just think it's a tough call, especially now with the outside post.
We're going to move on to race number 7. It's the Breeders' Crown Final, $600,000 for the 2-year-old filly Pacers. And in this race, we'll have another, I would think a reasonably heavy favorite in the 7, Nikki Hill, despite the fact that she did not win her elimination. And we're going to take a look at video from that race and see as Queen of Success comes out of the pocket to win the race, and Nikki Hill closes for second.
I think that this was, again, a tactical race where drivers were driving for next week, not necessarily this week. Andy McCarthy, the exception, he put himself in position to win, but Nikki Hill was in position to make the final.
No doubt about it. I mean, listen, Nikki Hill is definitely the horse to beat on paper. I'm certain that she'll be more aggressively handled this week by driver Dexter Dunn. I kind of went a different way from my top pick, because Nikki Hill's on my ticket. But I went with Treacherous Dragon, who I like the effort she put in last week. She kind of left a little bit, found a little bit of a tuck, had some traffic trouble, finished really nicely, in my opinion. I think this is a horse that's coming along and, might even have needed that start, having missed a month between starts.
Well, she certainly has a pedigree out of a dam that won 3 Breeders' Crowns. She has a trainer who's been noted for peaking horses at the right time. I'm just a little concerned that, I like horses that could have the ability to be on the lead or be coming from off the pace. I think she's more of a tracking horse and not a horse that could really cut it. And I think done with Nikki Hill this week is not going to be looking for a 3-hole or a 4-hole and a first over trip. I think first over trips have been wearing Dexter Dunn out this year, and I just don't. There's not that many better's wishes in the game, and he's got to start putting these horses on the front end or in the pocket. And I certainly think Nikki Hill is destined for the front here, and I just don't think she's going to have that much difficulty getting it and getting the pace she wants.
A couple of longer price horses I see that you have on your ticket is Got the Green Light and Sea Silk. Why can these horses win, Jay?
I think Got the Green Light, the New York Sire Stakes champion, basically took the off the pace road last week. Wasn't convincingly strong finishing, but was good enough. I think she kind of needed that race, hadn't really raced competitively. Brian Sears is very, very, very good big money driver, and the rail is not a bad place to be. This horse is really, really talented. And, Sea Silk, carved up Ohio Sire Stakes competition, and she cut the pace last week. Granted, she got beat, in a sprint to the wire, but that doesn't mean she's not good enough. And, like I said, you're going to get a tremendous price on Sea Silk this week, and I don't think she's that far removed from the rest of these.
Okay, we're going to move on to race number 8. It's for the 2-year-old filly trotters, $600,000 on the line once again, as all of these 2-year-old finals are. And here we look at the board and we see Little Bit Alexis and Raised by Lindy as the, moderately priced favorites who will probably be pretty heavy favorites come post time.
I don't think there's any other two you could look at. I mean, I was standing next to Marcus Melander after the draw was held, and his 2 horses that made the final drew post 9 and 10. And, I think these are 2 horses that probably would be contenders if they drew inside, and now they're really long shots. And Little Bill Alexis, I just think, I spoke to Dexter Dunn after the race last week, and he was much happier with the way she's calmed down and he's able to drive her. Got a 2-hole trip with her, and she was strong earlier in the year. She'd shown some signs of getting a little hot, and he was unable to control her. So I think he's confident coming in that he's got the ability. And when these two met in Lexington, Raised by Lindy beat Little Bill Alexis, but Dunn seemed to think he might have made a little bit of a driving error in that race. And I think it's those two, and I kind of agree with you on Little Bill Alexis, at least being my choice in this race.
Yeah, I ended up keying Little Bit Alexis, more for the fact that, it comes down to pick 4 value. If I use both horses, doubles the price of your ticket, doubles your investment. So I felt like you had to make a stand here, and I thought Little Bit Alexis looked slightly better than Raised by Lindy. Just my opinion, doesn't mean she is. What about a horse like Selfie Queen? We've seen her throw out some big races at times. Can she get that little bit extra she needs?
I just didn't like the fact that she lost her driver along the way. I mean, I think these drivers are really, really smart. They know the big money's coming up. Breeders' Crown, Goldsmith Made, big money races. You don't just hop off horses that you think are going in the right direction. And that's why I'm a little bit concerned about that. I just think that Selfie Queen also, maybe another Mohawk Million horse that basically is having trouble getting back on her best game.
We're going to move on to race number 9, another Breeders' Crown for $600,000, 2-year-old Colt and Gelding Pacers. And quite frankly, Jay, this could be the best race of the card. It could be the best race of the weekend. It's a really nice race.
It's an impossible race to handicap. That's all I could say. I mean, you could watch the replays over and over again. I mean, you could eliminate a couple of horses maybe, but not totally, are out of it. I mean, I certainly think that, the performances of True Blue Lindy last week was not that encouraging from earlier races this year. But other than that, I mean, I think there are 9 horses in this race that could all be part of it. And, I just, to me, Beach Glass just impressed me so much last week, even in defeat, and that Paul McDonnell drove the horse like he thought the horse was a superstar, and I don't think it's a disgrace to get beat in a 50 and change mile. The first time the horse has ever been that speed, the first time the horse has ever been at the Meadowlands, first time the horse has ever been at stakes competition. I mean, I think that was a great race for a horse that never raced against stakes competition. And this is a fresh horse, and I think probably the now horse.
I agree with everything you just said, and we're going to take a look at the replay last week with 6 feet apart and beach class, and we'll see how he raced really well. He looked like he was going to win the race easy, and just maybe the last few yards, he got a little bit short, going this mile for the first time.
Again, you can't say driver error at any point in time. I mean, Paul McDonnell drove the horse like he thought the horse was tons the best, and I can't fault him for that. He'd driven the horse before, he knows the horse. And, not being tons the best in a 50 mile, now he gets a sense of what the competition looks like. I mean, 6 feet apart, Brian Brown likes the horse. Didn't seem like he thought the horse was unbeatable. He says he's a grinder, and he just kind of grinded him down. It was a good effort. Miller knows 6 feet apart. The horse had stakes competition, pedigree already. So, I mean, I can see the fact that he had familiarity. He knew what he had to do, and he did it. But, beach class to me looks like, if he can go 50 and 2 in his first start here, given a good track, I mean, I think he's a horse that can go in 49 and change his second start here. And that might just make him the best of this group.
The other horse I'm using on my ticket is the 2 Monty Mickey. And for me, he really impressed me in his elimination. I didn't think he had that type of maturity to be able to make those moves when I saw him back at the Metro. And to me, he looks like a much different horse.
Well, Scott Zeron gives him. I mean, I got to give Scott Zeron credit. He actually gave me the answer to that. He had, he changed the bridle on the horse after the Lexington start. Thought the horse just didn't see anything happening on the track, and it really kind of responded late in that race where he finished third in the stakes race at the Red Mile and changed equipment. He says as soon as Hammer and Hank came into view, he says the horse picked up the bit and just took right off. And I mean, I think Hammer and Hank's a pretty solid horse from what I've seen before. Again, it was his first real taste of stakes competition. Finishing second was no, no shame in that. But, Hammer and Hank and Monty Mickey, I think both of them are certainly contenders here.
Yeah, I mean, Hammer and Hank, I mean, I spoke to Brett Pelling, and he said, I don't think any horse is as fast as this horse for a short stretch. My question is, how does he get into the race from post 8 in this spot?
There's only one way to get in the race, and that's leaving the gate. I'm a little concerned. Like I said, Dexter Dunn concerned me last week just because everything he was driving was first over for some reason. And it's a good trip if you have the best horse and you could beat the leader. It's a terrible trip if you're dragging a horse in second over, and if the horse on the front end and the horse in the pocket are solid. So, Hammer and Hank is going to need a perfect drive and a little bit of racing luck. But I think, when you're dealing with a race like this, racing luck is going to play a role, and it may play a role in a long shot, just, having to come in. And, some of these horses, you take a Monty Mickey, a Hammer and Hank, a beach class. I mean, we might see significant early fractions in this race.
And what's interesting is neither one of us used the morning line favorite Pebble Beach on our ticket. For me, it was more of the fact that, from what I've seen, he doesn't seem to win unless he gets that trip that he's looking for. And though he did impress last week, he was a little bit more gutsy. Though I didn't think they were coming home overly fast.
I think we see the same things in the sense that you don't want the trip horse. Or you feel less confident in the trip horse versus the horses that can race multiple ways. And Pebble Beach, even though he's fast, has looked like a trip horse, over the year. Certainly with a 48 and change mile, he's the fastest horse in this field. And it's hard to knock Todd McCarthy given the fact that he's been at the top of his game all year.
We're going to take a look at my pick 4 ticket, and it's a $9 play, so it's pretty affordable here. 3, 4, and 6 in the first leg. Treacherous Dragon in the second leg would be the horse that I'd like to win. He's 10-1 on the morning line. In the third leg, a little bit of Alexis Mikey. Obviously, you could throw in the 5 raised by Lindy. Makes a ton of sense on paper. And I only went 2 deep in race 9. It's a wide open race. I mean, you could easily throw in Pebble Beach, 6 feet apart, Hammer and Hank, another horse that I think could win. But I just went with the 2 horses that I like best in the race and tried to keep the ticket to a good price here. What do you have, Jay?
Well, I can't say I went as cheaply as you did. I mean, obviously, I think it's I strongly feel about Branded by Lindy and Rebuff in the first leg. I mean, I'd like to see Rebuff because he'll be a better price. In the second leg, I'm on the same wavelength as you with Treacherous Dragon as being part of it. I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing Sea Silk get the upset, but I think it's a tall order. But I think you needed to stretch there. I just thought it was just a little bit too hard to go, with a couple of horses there. I kind of agree with you in the eighth race, a little bit of Lexus and Raised by Lindy. I just think I wanted a little bit of backup in case one of them faltered for any reason at all. And like I said, in the final, I mean, I couldn't go 2 deep. I couldn't go 3 deep. I had to go 4 deep. And I'm not so sure that's going to be enough. I hope it's enough. But, I'm kind of hoping for Beach Class. There's something sentimental about Paul McDonnell and those connections, and certainly same connections as Some Beach Somewhere, a horse that was probably one of the greatest horses of all time, if not the greatest horse of all time. Sort of his one blemish, or his one significant blemish, was losing the Meadowlands Pace. And I don't know if Beach Class winning the Breeders' Crown at the Meadowlands will ever make up for that race, but it might be a start.
Well, Breeders' Crown Friday night gets underway at 6:20, 13 races on the card. Saturday post time is noon. We have a 10% rebate on all exotic wagers on DRF Bets. You'll want to check that out. Great weekend of racing at the Meadowlands. I know Jay's going to be there. I'll be there. I hope you'll be there. Good luck.